Hello everybody, this is the top-down analysis for the month of July. So I'm focusing here on the Forex market, so I'm focusing here on these higher time frames, so monthly, weekly and daily. And starting with the euro dollar, you might remember that there's an S1 pattern, a busted pattern on the weekly chart right here with this spike. That's a corona spike basically. So we see a big scare and a rebreak, and it has triggered when this red line was rebroken. Well, it didn't go very far, right? So there was a consolidation and a rebreak of the line. So I'm not much concerned if something rebreaks, but I'm getting concerned if there's a consolidation forming like we see here for a couple of weeks now, with small bars in between, like squeezed in between the 200 and this important flat line. And while zooming in on the daily, well, we can see here this consolidation, right? This is a bullish consolidation, and if this is going to follow through, well, if this is a trend following consolidation higher, well, then the target becomes a prior measured move, which is this one. And if this happens, well, then we actually, make a new high beyond this spike, and this renders this weekly busted pattern obsolete, and I have actually to rethink my long-term projections for the euro dollar, because then then this is a busted pattern of failure, and this is a very strong signal in the other direction, meaning long. Then I'm actually needing to change my long-term perspective that the US dollar is getting weaker against the euro, and that we're testing, that we might get here to the old high, the 125, and testing this cluster level with the 200. Well, the 120 is in between, a very big number, but for the time being, like if this pattern shows to be of success, and this is the market will tell me if price is making a new high above the pattern high. Then this high, which is basically the week high, is very close, and then then there's a big probability that this is going to break higher. And if it does, so if the consolidation high here gets broken, then my long-term view on euro dollar will change. That we're going to see higher prices, so a weakening dollar against the euro. So we had some price activity down here, as you might remember from one of the last monthly top-down analysis. This was a very important level. This is why I've put here this error. So if this level would have been broken, we would actually have seen really nice follow through with a good aligned stop run levels and in overall weekly downtrend. Well, this didn't happen, right? So now price is testing the other way. It's testing to go higher, and it looks promising. So currently, well, basically we're stuck here in a range on the daily, on this range of the busted pattern that has formed on the weekly, and we have to see now. Well, we could fall back into the range, obviously, right? It will take a couple of more weeks or even months to decide what's going to happen, but we've got these errors on both sides, and I'm basically waiting what's going to happen, right? Right, let's have a look at some other pairs that are interesting here. Euro Swiss. So Euro Swiss, we don't see any impact on from Corona. Even if you look on the daily chart, I mean, we might have had one day here with an impact, but it's basically it's flat. It didn't have any impact. So the Forex markets in general, some pairs we see a spike. The Corona scare spike. In some charts we don't, as here. So basically what it's doing what it did before here on the monthly chart. After the peg, the 120 euro Swiss peg that was established by the Swiss National Bank was released. We saw this big down move, and then a pullback. We have tested this peg level 120 to the pip. And since then, it's basically falling apart. Well, in overall trend direction, it's clearly a downtrend, and I'm very bullish for the Swiss against the euro. So what you see here, it's just downtrending. It has made a pullback, testing the 21. That's a healthy pullback, and I'm bearish here for this, clearly bearish for this chart. Let's have a look here at the euro odd. So the Australian dollar, well, here we can see a corona impact, right? This big weekly, that's a rejection bar on the weekly, and we see that in other asset classes like with US equities, metals, energies. We see this V-shape impact, right? So the corona scare, and then the sudden sudden recovery, V-shape shakeout, basically. Let's just move here to another chart. The odd US. All right. So the Australian dollar was kind of the weakest pair I could find for many months against all currencies, especially the US dollar. And let's just zoom here out. You can see how the Australian dollar from 110, it basically halved, right, in value against the dollar. So it's in a clear downtrend. And we can see the corona spike and a quick recovery. That's a bounce back, dead cat bounce that I talked before about. And it's not only dead cat bounce. Well, we've developed the second leg, right? 1, 2, and now we're about to make a third leg. And we have to see. This depends as well on the euro dollar. If the euro dollar is actually turning around and showing overall dollar weakness, we might actually see that the Australian dollar becomes stronger, even the Australian dollar becomes stronger than the US dollar. So we might see a tremendous loss of US dollar over the coming months and years. This might be so. That's a spike. That might be an exhaustion spike that sometimes marks the end of a strong trend. So this might actually mark the end, right? And this might be very early signs of a long-term uptrend and a strengthening of the Australian dollar in the years to come. So I'm looking forward how that develops. Now here the pound US, right? Okay, the pound US. The British pound, there's a big impact on Brexit and all the uncertainty that comes out of that. But you might remember as well that I've called that out actually at one of my live trading workshops. That was right here when it had triggered in 2014. I had called that out. That's a busted pattern, right here on the monthly chart, and it's doing what it's supposed. Oh, so you cannot see that. 1 second. Let's bring that down a little bit. Here's a busted pattern. Right here, I made this trade call, and it's doing what it should do. It's just following, the overall downtrend and breaking. And running in direction of the stop run levels. It did that. That's the last stop run level, big move. That was when this was when Brexit referendum came out. If you didn't know about the referendum, I wouldn't be surprised seeing this big bar here at that right moment of time. After this last stop run level, that is typically big. Well, there's a big pullback. And that's what we're seeing here. Testing 21, testing another test, and I'm bearish on the British pound and bullish on the dollar against the pound. Right, this is the US Swiss. So the Swiss is showing strength across the board, and obviously as well against the US dollar. The US Swiss, I mean, both currencies have been equally strong basically in the past, right? They're in sideways, which tells, we know that the US dollar was very strong. If they're in sideways here for years, that tells us that the Swiss is strong too, equally strong. And I've talked about that many times. It's basically, that's another busted pattern, right? It had triggered, came back, triggered, came back, triggered, came back. Well, the original stop was never taken off. So this is a long-term trade idea that is still active, and it has made lower highs. So now it looks like, well, whenever you make lower highs, well, it's establishing stop run levels, right? So there was this risk here, because we had here 3 stop run levels cluster. There's this risk that you run those stops, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I'm taking out this scenario because the US Swiss is showing a lot of bearishness. And well, this was a trial to break this stop run level. So now it looks, yeah, it looks pretty good here for strengthening Swiss. And this might make a big move in strength. And well, that comes from the US dollar weakness, obviously, across the board. But I'm seeing here a lot of bearishness coming into the chart. And well, finally, this busted pattern might actually run. That's from early 2017 here on this monthly chart. Just remember, if the US dollar gets weak, typically metals benefit. Well, especially gold and silver. So we might see weakness in US dollar, and we might actually see the precious metals develop really nicely. All right, let's move to the US yen. So you know the yen is an important pair too. So the yen is here. It's kind of yeah. Let's see the monthly. Yeah. So we've made here a quadruple low, and my suspicion was that we might actually find a bottom here. Stop run levels nicely aligned, and that we make a quick move higher, because the overall move is up, and this is this can be seen as a consolidation, right? But it doesn't look like we have very low volatility. Prices stuck here at the moving averages. I'm open that it might do both. Actually, it might make the stop run move, or it might yeah, turn around, and we've seen. Well, that comes from the dollar weakness, right? So we've seen that with other cross pairs. So this is well, this would be quite a change in the market if the dollar actually falls off and down, because it has been strong for many years. All right, so let's have a look here at the pound Swiss. So the Swissy being strong, well, that's reflected here as well against the weak pound. Nice downtrend. Yeah, getting off this consolidation and trying to move here in a really, well, trying to continue this very long downtrend that is established for many years. So it's a great currency to trade, the pound Swiss, benefiting from pound weakness and Swiss strength. Let's have a look here. The last one, pound New Zealand. Yeah, that's a special situation, because here I've talked about that, I think, during the last one. So yeah, pound is as well weak against the Kiwi, and the Kiwi has printed a busted pattern, and it triggered. And it hasn't made, well, it slightly made a new low, but then it came back. So it hasn't done the stop run move below the consolidation low, this one. Then it has formed a second busted pattern, right? That's a pattern within an oval pattern, 2 busted patterns, and it has triggered just recently. And well, that's double pressure. If it starts to run, we might see a huge price development for strengthening of the Kiwi and the weakening of the pound. Well, we don't know where it comes from. Is it the pound that's actually falling apart, or is it the Kiwi that's showing strength? I think it's the pound, because we've seen it against other currencies. So what we might see in the future is a really weak dollar and a weak pound, and we might see a strengthening of the euro and the Swiss, and yeah, even the Australian dollar, that has been the weakest pair for many years. An interesting chart to look at if this actually follows through on the downside. All right, that's it. Thank you.